It's reached a new level of crazy now, as apparently the EU is thinking of putting sanctions against Tucker Carlson, against him personally, for being a reporter, for doing his job. Yesterday, we talked about the media meltdown over Tucker Carlson doing a whole lot of journalisming over there in Moscow. I mean, I don't know why it's so outrageous or controversial when a journalist who is known for interviewing people actually goes and interviews a pretty big name in the news, Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. In fact, why is it Xi Jinping is interviewed by major media outlets and no one bats an eye? I mean, the guy's responsible for genocide and slave labor and, well, communism in general, and cheating at the Olympics too. But set that aside for a moment. It's reached a new level of crazy now, as apparently the EU is thinking of putting sanctions against Tucker Carlson, against him personally, for being a reporter, for doing his job. Here's Newsweek. They've got the story, and it says, as you can see here, Carlson's work in Russia. I love that phraseology. Like he's going to work in Russia on behalf of Russia. He's getting an interview, for God's sake. Carlson's work in Russia could see the former Fox News host in hot water with the EU. Guy Verhofstadt, a former Belgian prime minister and current member of the European Parliament, told Newsweek that the lawmaker, who has called for the EU to explore imposing a travel ban on Carlson, described Carlson as a mouthpiece of former President Donald Trump. Why are they dragging Trump into this? That's fascinating, isn't it? And Putin, adding, quote, as Putin is a war criminal and the EU sanctions all who assist him in that effort, it seems logical that the External Action Service examine his case as well. Boy, it makes the whole Brexit thing seem that much more sane, rational, and logical, doesn't it, when you've got the EU doing things like this? Let's break this down for a second, and then we have the benefit of actually hearing from Tucker Carlson himself, as he posted a video explaining firsthand why he's there to interview Vladimir Putin. But this is a fascinating Orwellian authoritarian move by the EU. He's a mouthpiece for President Trump and Putin. I've watched Tucker Carlson for years, and he's had a lot of criticism for Donald Trump, by the way, and doesn't actually support everything that Donald Trump tries to do. To call him a mouthpiece is, well, just a lie. But you see, if you're not 100% critical and don't condemn Donald Trump every opportunity you have, you're called a mouthpiece for Donald Trump. This is how the left thinks because, well, they're totalitarians. And then he says he's a mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin. So going and asking Vladimir Putin questions and getting him on the record, giving his opinion or stating his position on a whole host of matters internal to Russia, but also obviously on the international stage, asking him questions and getting him on the record and maybe even challenging him on some of the things that he said makes you a mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin. Is anyone terrified yet about free speech, the First Amendment, the freedom of the press? Where's all the champions of freedom of the press that we saw during the Trump years? Where's Jim Acosta standing up shoulder to shoulder with Tucker Carlson saying the man is doing his job as a reporter? Get out of his way. I'm not seeing them out there right now. Are you? Well, Tucker Carlson doesn't seem too worried about being sanctioned by the EU or a travel ban against him for that matter. In Moscow, he delivered a message to all the viewers of his network, the Tucker Carlson Network, and to X, and to anyone out there who wants to know why would Tucker Carlson do this. Well, he answered that question directly.
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people. 2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it in ways they might not fully yet perceive. The war in Ukraine is a human disaster. It's left hundreds of thousands of people dead, an entire generation of young Ukrainians, and it's depopulated the largest country in Europe. But the long-term effects are even more profound. This war has utterly reshaped the global military and trade alliances, and the sanctions that followed have as well. And in total, they have upended the world economy.
There's more to this, but up until this moment, is there anything that he said that's inaccurate? You may quibble with the causes behind what he just described in terms of where we are in the world economy and trade in the international sphere, but that's fine. He's just reporting the actualities, the facts of what's going on right now. And as you watch the rest of this, and listen, Tucker Carlson is an opinion journalist. There is such a thing as opinion journalists. I'm one of them, where you deliver information, you deliver facts, and then you deliver your opinion on those things. But you also, if you do it right, leave it up to your viewer or your reader or your listener to actually form their own opinion, right? Because we all have opinions. When you watch the rest of this video, and I won't interrupt him again, I want you to think to yourself, does this look like a man who's trying to convince me of something? Does this look like a man who is trying to change my mind about this war or about this issue? Does this look like a man who has an agenda and he's trying to deliver a message to me to make me agree with him? Or does he look like a man who is saying, listen, I think we've only had one side of the story, and you may not agree with the other side of the story, but since it's something as valuable and important and critical as war, maybe it's our responsibility to at least know the other side of the story.
The post-World War II economic order, the system that guaranteed prosperity in the West for more than 80 years, is coming apart very fast, and along with it, the dominance of the US dollar. These are not small changes. They are history-altering developments. They will define the lives of our grandchildren. Most of the world understands this perfectly well. They can see it. Ask anyone in Asia or the Middle East what the future looks like. And yet the populations of the English-speaking countries seem mostly unaware. They think that as nothing has really changed. And they think that because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt. They lie to their readers and viewers. And they do that mostly by omission. For example, since the day the war in Ukraine began, American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice. That's wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too. Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe. That right cannot be taken away no matter who is in the White House. But they're trying anyway. Almost 3 years ago, the Biden administration illegally spied on our text messages and then leaked the contents to their servants in the news media. They did this in order to stop a Putin interview that we were planning. Last month, we're pretty certain they did exactly the same thing once again, but this time we came to Moscow anyway. We are not here because we love Vladimir Putin. We are here because we love the United States, and we want it to remain prosperous and free. We paid for this trip ourselves. We took no money from any government or group, nor are we charging people to see the interview. It is not behind a paywall. Anyone can watch the entire thing, shot live to tape and unedited, on our website, tuckercarlson.com. Elon Musk, to his great credit, has promised not to suppress or block this interview once we post it on his platform, X, and we're grateful for that. Western governments, by contrast, will certainly do their best to censor this video on other less principled platforms because that's what they do. They are afraid of information they can't control. But you have no reason to be afraid of it. We are not encouraging you to agree with what Putin may say in this interview, but we are urging you to watch it. You should know as much as you can. And then, like a free citizen and not a slave, you can decide for yourself. Thanks.
Kind of refreshing, actually, isn't it? And I just want to reiterate, I support Tucker Carlson as a journalist, making a journalistic endeavor to better inform the people of this country and really the entire English-speaking world about a critically important issue. By the way, I don't know if I agree with Tucker Carlson about his position on Russia. I don't even know Tucker Carlson's entire position on Russia. I don't think I need to know Tucker Carlson's entire position on Russia. And I certainly, when push comes to shove, I'm not on the side of Vladimir Putin, who is obviously the aggressor in this entire war. But I'm also not an idiot. And when you see countries trying to suppress information and suppress the media, when you see the entire European Union threatening to attack Tucker Carlson and ban him from traveling to the continent because he's conducting an interview, when you see media outlets in America calling for Tucker Carlson to be arrested or kept from entering the country, which, by the way, I'm thrilled that there are people in the media who have finally decided that there's someone out there outside of our borders who shouldn't be let in. It's just sad that it's a fellow journalist, Tucker Carlson. When you see that kind of reaction, and then what Tucker said the Biden administration did to him, well, then one must wonder what the hell this is all about. And every American who sees that, every single freedom-loving American seeing the full court press against Tucker Carlson in this interview, every single one of us should now demand to see what the government and corporations and foreign powers refuse to allow you to see. That's the American way, isn't it? And by the way, that last mention there of Elon Musk made the mortal sin of promising not to block or suppress this interview on X, and now he is facing criticism about that. Here's someone named Caroline Orr Bueno, if that's her real name. She has PhD in her handle too. That's always a suspicious move, isn't it? She calls herself a behavioral scientist in her postdoctorate career at a University of Maryland. That tells you everything. And she's studying disinformation and cognitive security. Wow, she's got to be a party. She says, that's interesting, Elon Musk was involved in the planning of Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin. Whoa. Full stop here. What do you mean involved in the planning? Tucker Carlson just said that nobody's paying for him to be there. No group, no government. They paid for it themselves. They went there. They got the interview. All he said was, Elon, he picked up the phone and said, hey, Elon, I'm interviewing Vladimir Putin. I'm going to put it on my website. I'd like to put it on X. Will you promise not to block it or suppress it? Elon Musk says, yes, I will not block it or suppress it. So Elon Musk was involved in the planning of this thing. God, these people are awful. He likely agreed to the arrangement because of the viewers it'll bring in. So he's using his platform to sell airtime to a war criminal who wants to undermine our country. I'm guessing Caroline Orr Bueno, PhD, is referring to Vladimir Putin there, not Tucker Carlson. But hey, honestly, you never know. Adam Schiff, congressman from California running for Senate in that state, flagged the video of Tucker Carlson and said there are idiots and useful idiots and really, really useful idiots and Tucker Carlson. This is Adam Schiff calling Tucker Carlson a really, really useful idiot. Adam Schiff, the man who sat in front of cameras all across the media sphere, claiming that he had seen direct evidence that Donald Trump had colluded with the Russian government to steal the 2016 election. He lied left and right, up and down. He was, in fact, a useful idiot for Hillary Clinton, for the Democratic Committee, for Robert Mueller, for anybody who opposed Donald Trump, for anyone who stood in the way of the Trump administration actually functioning as the executive branch of government, and lied and lied and lied over and over again. And he's calling Tucker Carlson a useful idiot. Well, I mean, at least he's an expert in this arena. And a lot of people are flagging the fact that other media outlets, right up until 2021, which was only 3 years ago, had actually gladly interviewed Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, we showed you pictures of George Stephanopoulos and Charlie Rose and Barbara Walters all sitting down with Vladimir Putin over the years. And there was this last interview from NBC News where they sat with Vladimir Putin, 2021. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. It's out there if you want to watch the whole thing. But this clip really does resonate when you look at the political tides in this country today, how the news media has become propagandist, and in answering the question as to why they're so upset that Tucker Carlson is doing this thing.
May I just ask you a direct question? Did you order Alexei Navalny's assassination?
Of course not. We don't have this kind of habit of assassinating anybody. That's one. Number two is, I want to ask you, did you order the assassination of the woman who walked into the Congress and who was shot and killed by a policeman? Do you know that 450 individuals were arrested after entering the Congress, and they didn't go there to steal a laptop? They came with political demands. 450 people have been detained.
You're talking about a capital.
They're looking at jail time between 15 and 25 years. And they came to the Congress with political demands. Isn't that persecution for political opinions?
You know, it's almost like the American government has lost the moral high ground internationally in accusing other countries of suppressing political opposition and using the judicial system to silence political critics of the current government or the current president. It's almost like we've actually lost the opportunity to criticize other governments because of our own actions. Almost in the same way we've lost the moral high ground when it comes to showing third world nations and banana republics how to conduct an election fairly without any sort of fraud or cheating. Now, one other thing that needs to be noted, that NBC News reporter that sat for an hour and 20 minutes with Vladimir Putin and broadcast exclusively there on NBC News, was he a puppet? Was he a mouthpiece for Vladimir Putin? Did the EU actually want to send sanctions against him and give him a travel ban from the continent? He conducted an interview. He gave Vladimir Putin a platform to deny that he ordered the assassination of his political opponents. He's a puppet for Vladimir Putin. You know, you didn't hear that, did they? You didn't hear that. Again, we aren't on the side of Vladimir Putin in any way whatsoever. We're interested in seeing the interview. We're interested in being educated. We're interested in gathering more information. And we'll be watching Tucker Carlson's interview. It's going to be released tomorrow night around 6 p.m. Eastern. And I'm sure we'll have plenty to say about it the next morning. But let me just leave you with this. You know, anytime there's a controversial issue like this, whether it's an interview or a news program or a viral video or even a movie or a speech that you might see from a political figure, and one side of the political equation wants to suppress all that information, wants to keep it from you, wants to condemn anyone who would platform it, and want to shut down accounts, you know, like a article in the New York Post about the son of a man running for president. You know, one side wants to delete all that information and keep you from seeing it. And the other side might not even agree with it, but at the very least, they just want a free and open space. You know, the solution to the problems in this country is not to have less free speech. It's to have more of it. When you're faced with that choice, I beg you, always side with the people who are interested in keeping the flow of information going. The people who want more speech, not less. Usually, those are the good guys.